obviously.
Usually in a slightly more graceful and less ham-fisted fashion than you just did, but yes, we do need to sell cards.
Let's see. We got the Jessup Bros plus Brad Carpenter on your left. We got Rudy Briksza, Kazu Negri, and Kevin Jones, all open champions on your right. An Ether Hub and an energy counter for Dan Jessup to start things off. Over to Kevin Jones we go. He'll play a Botanical Sanctum, and he'll pass a turn back. It's nice to see no attunes on turn one, isn't it? A second hub here for Danny J.
It's something. I mean, I've seen all these cards before, so we're still kind of waiting, but yeah.
We don't have the busted start of Botanical Sanctum plus attune go, and your opponent is just ripping their hair out. I even got to do that once. I played Teamer Energy at Grand Prix Atlanta. That's the start, man. That was the start. Now, Danny J with 2 hubs, 2 energy, still looking for like a basic or a fast land or something like that. No attunes to fix man. He's already in the tank, going over to baby bro.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the team format, you are allowed to consult your teammates in the middle of a match. This can make particularly mulligans quite obnoxious.
It can.
But those are the rules.
Yes, they are. So after consulting Andrew Jessup very quickly, we'll see a Servant of the Conduit. Harness Lightning will take down that Servant by Kevin. Kevin will have 1 energy left over.
Unstable basic land.
Oh, you're already in?
Already, the bingo's already firing.
Jeez. That's nice. That is nice. We have a Blooming Marsh into a Glint Sleeve Siphoner. A card that we'll take a look at here very quickly, Glint Sleeve Siphoner, because I think this is going to be a popular one moving forward. A lot of people are pretty hyped on this one now.
So this is one of the, I mean, if you're looking for an energy payout, this is one of the better ones left. I think alongside Whirler Virtuoso creates an incentive to maybe try a Grixis Shell of energy. And Sultai Energy was already a deck that people were playing prior to the bans.
So there you see the Siphoner going to bring some energy, a little Dark Confidant-esque effect, but we want to now highlight the newest card that's entered the battlefield, and that's Jade Light Ranger here from Kevin. He's double exploring, folks. When it enters the battlefield, it explores and it explores again. So the first explore revealed Whirler Virtuoso. He said, I'm going to keep it on top, show it to you again, and that means that Whirler Virtuoso will be a draw next turn, and more importantly, a little 4-3 right here. Yeah, and
if you're going to, Jade Light Ranger is similar to Rogue Refiner, but I think the gameplay is much better just because there are some times where you're just in the market for body, and there's some gameplay to the, I'm revealing, my opponent knows about this card now, do I want it on the top or the bottom? Do I try to go, is this card good, or should I try to go hunting for a land? There's a lot more, it's a much more dynamic card, even though it does do a lot of the same stuff as Rogue Refiner.
Merfolk Branchwalker is the play here from Jessup after the attack for 2. You see Jessup's energy count is up to 3. For the Branchwalker, it's going to explore. Glint Sleeve Siphoner is the reveal. Now Danny's got a decision to make on if he wants to keep this or not. And he looks like he is going to keep the Siphoner with the Branchwalker's trigger.
A little surprising to me. That seems quite optimistic to think that you're going to get to next turn and then it's going to be good against Jones' strategy, but Jessup decides to leave on top.
And back to Kevin Jones we will go for his 4th turn of the game. Picked up a copy of Whirler Virtuoso. We know that, so does Danny. That's land number 4. It's a mountain. He'll tap that 4 mana very quickly. Looks like he's going to use an energy to play Bristling Hydra. Energy trigger. He'll go up to 3 and pass the turn back. But, you know, if we compare this to the previous standard format, how much energy do you think that Bristling Hydra would have normally?
Right.
6, 7?
Yeah, the Attune doing it for free, and the Rogue Refiner, you know, also doing it for free, essentially. Yeah, Jones is actually... he is somewhat taxed on energy. It's not like he can do everything all at once.
Bristling Hydra in this situation, and I think in most situations moving forward, a lot more honest card now.
You know, so there's the, you know, you lose Rogue Refiner, you lose a Tomb of the Aether. That all matters just at a baseline. And then also it kind of takes power out all of the remaining cards, even if they're still good enough to play. I think Glint Sleeve Siphoner, Bristling Hydra, Whirler Virtuoso, those cards all have a home in Standard even after the bans in some form or fashion. But there's power level taken out of those cards as well, even though they're still legal.
Jessup able to pay a life to draw a card, a little extra energy lying around with the Siphoner, so he picked up 2 cards this turn.
You know what'd be good in this spot? The dog.
The dog.
The dog.
Might think things a little bit easier here for Danny J. He's got 2 main deck copies of Chupacabra, and we might get to a side where there might be a few more hiding over there. Instead, he'll play a Bristling Hydra. He'll go up to 4 energy. Now the main draw to Sultai Energy, and there's a couple. Chupacabra is one, Glintzy Siphoner is another, but we can't forget about the Scarab God, of which, that's a legendary creature, mind you. 4 copies in Jessup's deck list. He really wants to draw that card this weekend. Back to Kevin Jones, we're going to go. He's got that 3 energy from the Bristling Hydra, his 5th turn of the game. We know he's got a Whirl of Virtuoso in hand, copy of Long Tusk Cub as well. We earlier saw that Harness Lightning take care of a Servant of the Conduit. And it is worth noting, too, Harness Lightning going to be a little bit worse now. Still good.
Another card where we're talking about turning a 9 and turning into an 8. Still plenty good enough for standard, but just isn't red terminate as much as it was in the previous world.
Whirl of Virtuoso is going to come down into the battlefield, trigger, get 3 energy, so Kevin's up to 6. Bristling Hydra thinking about attacking. And maybe Jadelight Ranger is going to come in here too. Kevin trying to figure out his attacks. And don't forget as well, Kevin, just a couple weeks ago, we watched him in the finals, SCG Columbus. Lost in the finals with Jeskai Control in Modern in a mirror match against Benjamin Nikolic.
So it's possible the blocks here are just too bad for Jones to make an attack. He also has to consider the consequences of possibly making an attack that turns on the Revolt of Fatal Push, as everything he has on the battlefield right now is 3 or 4 mana, and Jessup hasn't had an easy way to enable Revolt just yet.
Well, it looks like he's going to hold steady, and we're going to head back over to Danny J, who picked up a copy of Servant of the Conduit, going to pay a life and a couple of energy. Thanks to the Glintzy Siphoner. So you can see the effect that Siphoner's having on this game. Jessup's getting deeper and deeper into his deck to try to find maybe one of those copies of the Scarab God.
Yes.
And perhaps, by the way, when Danny on turn number 2, as he plays a Branch Walker here, will explore, that is a, I want to make sure it's a Fetid Pool, it is, so he'll draw that. But perhaps on turn 2, when he was consulting Baby Bro, he was saying, which 2-drop should I play? Servant or Siphoner? Siphoner lived, Servant died right away, and now you can see Siphoner really starting to run away with this game.
Yep. It is a very vulnerable card, but if your opponent can't happen to answer it and you've got enough energy humming, it's a huge advantage in these kind of matchups.
Servant will bring some energy along with it, up to 4. There's the Fetid Pools, and we'll pass that turn back. We'll Danny over to Kevin. Kevin going to untap those 4 lands in a moment, perhaps. Perhaps he wants to maybe make a Thopter or 2. He'll make at least 1. And looks like he's going to make 2.
Jones has to apply a little bit of pressure here. He has no cards in his deck that can, recoup the card advantage that he's behind, really. He's got to turn it into a race. And also, what are his alternatives? Just sit on a bunch of energy with his Bristling Hydra? Jessup's going to run away with the game very easily behind the Siphoner that way. So Jones needs to make the game about something else right now, and I like making the Thopters and just trying to apply a little bit of pressure.
Well, here's another copy of Whirl of Virtuoso. Along with that comes 3 energy. He can make another Thopter and keep pressuring Jessup in the air, a place that it looks like thus far his deck is a little bit vulnerable.
Well, he doesn't have his own copies of Whirl of Virtuoso, and that's usually the way that energy decks have answered opposing Whirl of Virtuosos, or one of the more common ways, is just having your own copy. So this is a good route here. The Thopters are naturally very good against spot removal, and it's not trivial for Jessup to come up with his own Whirl of Virtuoso or some other way to invalidate the Thopters.
Copy of Fatal Push is going to take care of one of those Thopters. Jessup going to pay a life and a little bit of energy to draw a card. That's a land for the turn. He picked up another copy of Fatal Push. You can also see his hand, that other copy of Siphoner. He's got another copy of Fatal Push, and he actually has a copy of Vraska's Contempt in hand. There's a Siphoner, a little bit of energy. Let's take a look at the Siphoner one more time, too. A card that's really starting to run away with this game for Jessup. Again, 2-1, Human Rogue, Menace, which actually does matter a little bit. Not so much right now because the battlefield's cluttered up. When Glintzy Siphoner enters the battlefield or attacks, you get energy at the beginning of your upkeep. You may pay 2 energy. If you do, you draw a card and you lose 1 life.
And this is a much better design to be powerful than some of the other energy cards in the past. First of all, it actually requires you to either attack or do something else. It doesn't just work on its own, like some of the other energy designs. And also, you care about it staying in play. It only gets good for you the next turn and the turn after that and the turn after that. So even if energy cards are still a part of Standard, and I think that's very likely to be the case going forward, not all the designs are created the same. Some of them are better to be powerful than others, and I think Siphoner versus Rogue Refiner or Whirl of Virtuoso or what have you, I think the Siphoner is a much better card to be part of Standard.
Bristling Hydra going to come in here. Will be blocked by Danny's Bristling Hydra, and then Fatal Push is going to take care of a Thopter token. So Danny's staving off that attack. 4 mana now, another copy of Bristling Hydra. That's going to resolve. You see Jessup's hand right now. Looks like 2 copies of Vraska Contempt in hand. Let's see how many copies of that card he's playing here this weekend. That'd be 3 in his main deck here.
And I buy that. I would expect a lot of copies of the Scarab God this weekend.
Jessup is going to pay 2 energy. Picks up a forest off of his Glintsteel Siphoner. He does have 2 additional energy laying around if he wants to use the other one.
And, you know, if you're in the market for Siphoner, having a little bit of life gain in the deck isn't the worst. You know, if all these removal spells are about the same, then, you know, pick up a couple of points for your trouble. Jones had to pivot and try to turn this game into a damage race because he's so far behind on cards. The Vraska's Contempts, I think, are going to be very hard for him to beat just because they answer anything that should happen to show up, and Jones really can't make the game about racing either.
Fatal Push, the next draw off of the other Siphoner, and then a Botanical Sanctum. Jessup's natural draw. You're getting to see 3 cards at the cost of 4 life. Excuse me, 4 energy and 2 life. Not so bad, as again, that battlefield is cluttered up pretty well here. There is the Sanctum.
And Jessup really not in a position to attack, but because he has the Scarab God in his deck, all he really needs to do is protect himself for a while, draw the extra cards, and with 4 copies of the Scarab God in the deck, once that shows up, winning from there is trivial. So he can't really attack right now, but it's not really important for him to be able to attack.
Sheltered Thicket will be cycled here by Kevin Jones in his main phase. You'll see an update on our scoreboard there. Negri, who was an Open champion last year. He's won game number 1 with Counter's Company over Andrew Jessup playing Grixis Death Shadow. Here's a Jade Light Ranger. The reveal will be a Long Tusk Cub.
Hold on.
Oh, boy.
Hold on.
Yep.
Something, I remember something. Player explores a card into their graveyard.
It's a cheap one.
It is cheap. So in the shows that you and I have done since Magic Bingo has been introduced to the broadcast,
yes,
neither one of us has had bingo.
That's
I don't
correct.
know if you know this.
I do know that.
Okay.
And both
they got to ease it up just a little bit.
And both shows we have tied on how many punches we've had on our bingo board. So there's officially been no winner between us. But we're going to get there. I'm not worried about it. Explores a card in a graveyard is pretty easy, though. What was the one that you had in Columbus that was unobtainable? It was Return to Coral Helm.
Oh, yeah. Multiple triggers for retreat.
A retreat to Coral Helm, yeah. Never going to happen. Full disclosure, Nick does have me review the bingo boards before we put them out. I kind of screwed you on that one a little bit. But I have a couple tough ones on my board this go around, so I try to make it even.
There's the boy.
Yes. Arr. The Beast Horror has finally shown up.
But you can see Jones on his side of the table has decided to work around this by not having a single creature that he cares about having be killed.
That's true. Yeah.
Or is killable.
Yes. They've all gotten their work done.
Right.
I'm only one that Chupacabra.
2 mana, don't care if it dies, 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 and can't be killed. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Long Tusk
Good
Cub.
selection of creatures.
Yeah. Long Tusk Cub, if it were large, that would be a nuisance. Oh, here comes the Cub, perhaps.
I don't like that attack.
maybe it'll stay at home.
I'm gonna go ahead here and add a little commentary before Jones makes the attack with Long Tusk Cub. I do not like the attack here. Oh. I guess Jones has to try to get a little bit busy here. He can't. He's
sit around
way
forever.
behind. And if your opponent's Sultai, you know that the Scarab God, some number has got to be in their deck somewhere. And Jones just has no card of commiserate power.
Looks like old Branchwalker is going to trade with Jade Light Ranger. Pass that turn back as Bradley Carpenter with Grixis Delver is up a game here with Rudy Briksza, who is also playing Grixis Delver. Those are our legacy players at the very top of the scoreboard. As we're going to head back over to Jan Jessup. Is it a Jade Light Ranger? It is. We're going to go exploring, not once, but twice. Nissa, Steward of Elements. Want to make sure I get that right. Because I think we're going to see that one a lot this weekend, I think.
That's better than the average draw from this spot, I'm sure. With Jones having really no way to threaten a Planeswalker. And that Nissa is going to come down with a ton of loyalty.
Let's go back over to Kevin Jones. How does Kevin break through something like this?
He kind of can't. You know, the hope is that you could steal something with with Chandra or Glorybringer. You know, those are his high impact cards.
Glorybringer, I haven't seen one of those yet.
Those are his high impact cards from this spot. But honestly, you know, it's Jessup is ahead on the table right now, and he has so many more haymakers in his deck, and they are much harder for Jones to answer than Jones's best draws are for Jessup to answer. He's sitting on a Vraska's Contempt. He can kind of handle the first thing no matter what it is. And if the Scarab God shows up, we're kind of just done here.
Yeah, we're probably done.
We're just done here.
Here's Vraska's Contempt, going to take care of War of the Virtuoso. See you later. See if Kevin wants to actually use 3 energy. He does not. Jessup will gain a little bit of life. Let's take a look at Vraska's Contempt. Think we're going to see a lot of that one this weekend, too, especially for players that have black mana in their deck. That removal spell got kind of crowded out in the format, but it looks like this instant speed, exile target creature or planeswalker, you gain 2 life. 4 mana is a lot, but it's a powerful effect. And as you mentioned, life gain in combination with Glinting Siphoner, you're going to want it. Yeah,
you're going to want some catch. You also want some catch-alls. You know, when you're drawing a bunch of extra cards, the worst thing that you can have happen is something's just kind of slipped through the cracks that you can't answer, and you lose even though you're ahead on a lot of cards. And Vraska's Contempt covers you against kind of any of those cards in Standard someone could have. Setting aside Approach, I suppose, so as one of the big exceptions.
The Jessup brothers, they're teaming up. Marvel team-up style. Arguing about how much Nissa should be cast for right now.
Yeah, I mean, you had to respect the possibility of, you know, I suppose Supreme Will is a possibility.
Yeah. Well, there is Nissa, Steward of Elements. That's our blue-green Nissa, a Jeremy Knoll favorite from Commander Versus. X loyalty counter is going to make it up to 5 now. Started at 3. Scry 2 is going to bring it up to 5. The 0 ability, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nissa, Steward of Elements, you may put that card on the battlefield. That -6, well, we'll get to that if it matters. But more importantly, Jessup has left up enough mana for 1 to pay for Supreme Will, but 2 to be able to cast Vraska's Contempt.
Yep. And you have 5, you know, loyalty, so it's pretty hard for Jones with his current board to get to that Nissa.
Well, here comes that Thopter. Gonna whittle it down a little bit, perhaps. Looks like Jessup's just gonna take 1 and fall down to 13.
I think Jones still needs to keep up appearances here and try to race to the best of his abilities. I think trying to knock that Nissa down for 1 when it just pluses for +2 a turn, that doesn't really get him anywhere. I think that Jones is unlikely to win this game, but I do appreciate that he's tried to make the game about something else, because the pure, you know, card economy battle he can't really win.
And Essence Scatter will take care of Jadelight Ranger. That's a 1 of in Kevin's deck, that Essence Scatter. Something that Jessup does know about now, and perhaps it changes the way that Jessup plays game number 2 and potentially game number 3, as Jessup is going to scry 2 yet again. Both those lands are going to the bottom. He does not need those. Again, 4 copies of the Scarab God in Jessup's deck, and he has not seen 1 yet, and he's seen a lot of cards, folks.
But no rush.
He's in a good spot.
Still sitting on removal, slightly better board, and all of his energy draws are quite good as well because they just convert into the Siphoner.
Mm-hmm. But this is life without Rogue Refiner, and this is life without a tune with Ether. Here's Servant of the Conduit.
Just look at the energy counts. Jones is going from 1 to 3, and Jessup has been on 0 for a while now. That was not the case in the old world.
Servant of the Conduit will come down, bring that 2 energy that Patrick mentioned. Here comes that Thopter token, just deciding where it's going to go. And he says, right to your dome.
If you didn't attack the Nissa last time, nothing has changed to cause you to attack the Nissa this time.
Back to Jessup will go. He's drawn a forest. Does he want to keep scrying? Looks like the answer is yes. Up to 9. Scry 1. Scry 2. Ethersphere Harvester. And another copy of Nissa. Harvester, a card we have not seen much of in the standard format outside of Maru Vehicles, which got crowded out.
I might just bottom both here.
Are you just on the hunt for the Scarab God now?
I think so.
Just find your haymaker? Find your best possible. I think you put both to the bottom.
No, he kept the Harvester, which is fine. It's just you have an interest in energy for the Siphoners. I don't think it's the worst, but
both these players looking for their game breakers. They're 5-mana spells. For Jones, it's Glorybringer. For Jessup, it's the Scarab God. Unfortunately for Jones, however, is he's going to come across here for 1. Jessup's got Glorybringer all handled with a Vraska's Contempt. This is a Long Tusk Cub. Pass the turn back. Jessup's going to draw that Harvester. He'll scry 2. He's up to 11. Bristling Hydra, Merfolk Branchwalker. Kind of like putting both of those to the bottom. Wow.
I think with the second Siphoner in play, it's unlikely that Jones is able to kill both of them.
Okay.
And then at that point, why not just keep any energy source on the top of your deck? The game's being played on a very slow timeline. Everything that generates energy essentially converts into a card through the Siphoner.
Okay.
So if you're not worried about your life total, then you might as well keep them on top.
Let's take a look at Aethersphere Harvester. We're gonna look at a lot of cards in Standard here this weekend because it's a whole new world.
Right.
3-mana vehicle, 3/5, great power and toughness, flying of course. When Aethersphere Harvester enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy, which is great with the Siphoner, great with Servant of the Conduit, great with Long Tusk Cub, so on and so forth. You can pay an energy. Harvester gains lifelink until end turn, great against those mono red decks and a bevy of other things. And to crew it, well, just crew 1, super easy. Every creature in Dan's deck can do that. So easy breezy, good card, might be a great card in this new Standard metagame.
One of the better cards against red in the format.
Oh yeah.
And just attacking decks generally. You know, your hypothetical builds of Pirates and Merfolk, I do not think want to be playing against that card in heavy numbers.
Jade Light Ranger there from Kevin, reveals a Braid. Not once, but twice. Going to stay on top of the deck. Jade Light Ranger is a 4/3. Back to Jessup, we're going to go. Remember, he scryed 2 cards to the top. He'll draw this card, which he will know is a Bristling Hydra. And there's Merfolk Branchwalker, the 0 off of Nissa. Takes the forest. Play the forest. Crew the Harvester. Come on in.
And that also might have been the reason to leave on top there from Jessup's perspective. He's okay with the Bristling Hydra draw, and if he scries both to the top, then he knows that the second card is something that he can 0 with Nissa.
Here's Bristling Hydra. You saw Harness Lightning take care of the Harvester, by the way. Kevin left with just 1 energy. Danny's moving up to 4. That means it could be 2 draws here with the Siphoner. And we swear he has a Scarab God. We swear. We have the deck list in front of us. Seriously, he plays 4. Get in there, Thopter. Jessup down to 10. Let's pay 2 energy and a life, shall we? Fall down to 9. New card coming. Botanical Sanctum. Well, let's do it again. Swamp. Draw a card for turn. Ha ha!
There we go.
Can't play it fast enough.
There we go.
Yeah, it's about time. There's the Scarab God.
Okay, so a lot to unpack in this spot. So Jessup not really playing with a whole lot of zombies. We'll go back. We'll circle back to that power in a second. But the rub here is that he can play 4 mana and exile a creature, instant or sorcery speed, exile any creature from either graveyard. He gets a token that's a 4/4, and in conjunction with the various threats in both graveyards that summon or have some form of immediacy, this is a really powerful combination of cards. Lastly, you can't kill it.
Yeah, it doesn't die.
It can't be killed.
Yeah, it doesn't die.
So even if Jones were to draw, say, Harness Lightning with the requisite energy, it would only be a short-term solution. Right now, Jones's hand, the Braid he left on top of his deck, powerful removal spell. See how it plays out from here.
The Scarab God would like a card. That's a good choice.
Excellent choice.
Hey, that's a really good choice. It's so Warlord Virtuoso.
So you get 3 energy, and then that's a Thopter, and then, you know.
That's a 4/4. It's a zombie now. Right. Which, as you mentioned, we're going to get back to that first power.
We
with
will
the Scarab
circle
God.
back to that if Jones plays on from here.
Kevin going to draw a card. How much does he want to slog this one out?
How much does he value his time?
We're going to find out, folks. Here we go. That should be on the bingo board. How many turns does Kevin want to play post Scarab God? Where Jessup has a million mana.
Card has 5+ counters on it.
Where?
The Nissa.
Ah, come on. It's 3-0 already. Hey, Glorybringer, you're about to die.
Or ignored, whichever.
Yeah, either's fine. Gonna use that Servant of the Conduit, go down to 2 energy. How about 2 life? And Kevin does not want to play. He does not want to play anymore. He will tap the mat. As Danny Jessup gonna win game number 1 here over Kevin Jones. Sultai Energy, aka Sultai the Scarab God, gonna win game number 1 here over Teamer Energy. So these players are going to get ready to go over their sideboard. You see the clock there. We're about 25 minutes left to go in the match. You see the scoreboard update there. Brad Carpenter up a game over Briksza in our mirror, and then we got Kazu Negri, Counters Company, up a game over Andrew Jessup playing Briksza's Death Shadow. We'll get to the sideboards and all the good stuff in a minute, but for now, a few words from our sponsors.
Go. Go.
Let's talk sideboard, shall we? You got Kevin Jones on your right, Danny Jessup on your left. Jessup won game 1. Jones got 4 negate, 3 Death Forge Scavenger, 2 Appetite for the Unnatural, 2 Chandra's Defeat, Gearhulk, Supreme Will, Lifecraft's Beastry, Confiscation Coup. What are we thinking?
Bestiary, Coup, Supreme Will, Torrential, Gearhulk. Those seem like the ones to me.
For Jessup, 3 Duress, 3 Negate, 3 Death Forge Scavenger himself, 2 Moment of Craving, that's a new removal spell that gains life, 2 Bestiary himself, a Vraska the Relic Seeker, and an Essence Scatter.
Scatter, Vraska, Bestiary, that would do it for me.
Okay. Both these players are going to keep their opening hands. We will start game number 2 between Jessup and Jones. For Jones, he thought about playing something. He probably doesn't have Harness Lightning. Almost certainly not. No removal spell, right?
Got this Harness Burden a hole in my pocket.
Yep. That's a good one to kill. The old Branch Walker reveal of Vraska's Contempt. Looks like Jessup's going to keep that on top.
And you see Jessup play that instead of the Servant of the Conduit. Normally you would lead with your mana creature, but with Jones, mannerism suggesting perhaps having a removal spell.
Quite the read you have up here.
A little bit of a different line there.
Here comes the Branch Walker for 3. A Lifecrafter's Bestiary has been played. Could be a popular sideboard card here this week, and we'll take a little look-ski-poo in just a moment. There it is. There it is. Artifact at the beginning of your upkeep. Scry 1. That's a nice ability.
Yep.
And then whenever you cast a creature spell, it doesn't have to resolve. Whenever you cast, you may pay a green. If you do, draw a card. And these kind of mid-rangey mirrors, this could be nice.
It could be. And you can sort of see the dynamic from last game, but flipped. Jones with that Bestiary potentially has a huge edge in a long game, so Danny needs to shorten it up.
Just a little tip, by the way. Brad Nelson over on StarCityGames.com Premium, best standard player in the world, had a lot to say about Bestiary moving forward in the format. Feels like this could be a nice one, and if Brad thinks it's good, it's probably going to be good.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't ignore that. That's all I'm saying. Servant of the Conduit, plus pay a green to draw a card. It's a nice little turn there for Kevin. You got to scry a card to the bottom with the Bestiary. Got to draw a card by playing the Servant. Got a little bit of energy. Maybe a little mana acceleration as well, as here comes Merfolk Branch Walker in for 3 again. Jones going to fall down to 14. You can find me in the hub. Little energy, 5 mana. That's a fun Magic card.
And that's game!
Yeah. That's a fun card. You can scry as much as you want. The Scarab God has resolved.
So a lot to unpack here.
Oh, we want to go over it again?
Well, we don't have to go over it just yet.
No?
Because there's no graveyard.
Okay.
We're still... It is merely 5/5, indestructible, and really can't be chump blocked because then that turns on the power.
Yeah.
So it's more modest than what we saw in the earlier game.
Sure. It seems as though you and maybe Andrew Jessup have unlocked the format.
Yeah. We
cast the Scarab God.
Yeah. This is why I said that my approach would my deck for this weekend would be approach.
Just something that ignores that thing?
Pretty much.
All right, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. I'm not a big approach fan, personally. I don't think the deck is particularly good because it's very obvious about what it's doing. But, you know, the fact that it is obvious maybe isn't a bad thing. Maybe it's totally fine. It's not my favorite deck. That's all. We're the Virtuoso, plus draw a card. Botanical Sanctum, one on the battlefield, tap, pass the turn back. The Scarab God, he's untapping with it.
And really important there if Jones missed the trigger because he's going to need every chump blocker. And it looks like he drew out the bestiary first, which is the correct order of action there. You draw before the Virtuoso enters the battlefield, but then it looks like he played the Sanctum tapped before doing anything with the energy. At that point, the trigger is missing. That's a really big deal here because if he's going to manage the Scarab God here, he needs a lot of chump blocking.
Yes, and chump blocking with tokens.
Right, not creatures that enter the graveyard. Yeah. Absolutely.
Scarab God and Merfolk Branchwalker coming in. They're going to deal a bunch of damage. Here's a Siphoner, a little more energy here for Jessup. He'll pass the turn back. You take a look at the top of the scoreboard. Brad Carpenter did win his match over Rudy Briksza. The Grixis Delvermere goes, to the team on the left. So Carpenter, Jessup, and Jessup. Nice little law firm there. They are up a match right now.
So I'm going to go into the bestiary a little bit. I think it's a really powerful sideboard card for these decks. It wouldn't surprise me if it showed up all over the place. But if you're going to do something like that, you've got to make sure you can actually win a long game against the cards your opponent has.
Sure.
If Jones paired these bestiaries with a bunch of essence scatters so he could win the fight over the Scarab God, great. That seems like a really good setup. In the absence of having an answer to the Scarab God, he might set himself up for a long game he's not really equipped to win.
Yeah, this is the problem. If you think about the Scarab God, one of the problems here is that red removal is just not good against it.
Right, Harness can buy you a little bit of time.
Here's a Vraska's Contempt by Jessup with the energy trigger on the stack. From Servant of the Conduit, and I believe this is targeting the Whirler Virtuoso.
Yeah, very wise here that Jessup does not want any chump blocking from Jones' side of the table. He's at 7. If he has to use real cards, either spells out of his hand and mana, or chump blockers that are actually creatures to manage the Scarab God, Jessup has a huge advantage in that sort of game. So the Thopter there, very important for Jessup to shut down, and you see him use the Vraska's Contempt there to prevent it from happening.
Jones remembers his energy trigger this go around with the Servant. He's going to follow up here. We'll see what it's going to be. I suppose it could be a Harnessed Lightning. Okay. So he's going to go down to 1 energy to take care of the Scarab God momentarily. Let's go back over to Dan Jessup now. See if he wants to pay 2 energy in a life. He will. Drawing a card with a Siphoner here. Got plenty of life to work with as he falls down to 21. Servant of the Conduit with the draw. Follow-up is a Fetid Pools. By the way, I'm on the bingo board now, thank you.
You are?
Player cycles a card.
Okay.
Shelter Thicket cycled last game by Kevin Jones. 3-1 right now, Patrick Sullivan. You see Andrew and Danny, the brothers, teaming up right now on Kevin Jones. Got a little bit to think about. Don't forget that Scarab God's going to come back at the end of the turn.
Yeah, I think Jessup here just trying to figure out how hard he wants to push on these attacks.
Oh, that answers that.
Yeah, and I like cutting Jones off of mana. I mean, he needs to be making multiple plays in a turn, and he needs mana for the bestiary as well. So I like this attack a lot. Also, just put stuff in the graveyard for the Scarab God.
Yeah. A good place.
Yeah,
for
that's where they go.
Yes.
That's where you want them.
See how Jessup wants to move forward in the second main phase here. Jones down to 5. You see Danny at 21. Andrew, I think, saying, it doesn't really matter. I'll cycle a card. Let's see what you find. Botanical Sanctum. Okay. There's a Servant. A little more energy.
He's got to remember the Scarab God trigger. That's
He
a big
does.
one.
Oh, yeah.
Still got it.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't have all those SCG Tour open top 8s for no reason. That's for sure. So we're going to go back over to Kevin Jones. He's got to scry. His teammates are helping him now. Kazu and Rudy are here. Two teams I think we're going to see in the feature match area a lot here this weekend. Get paired round one. Kevin might be thinking Cub here. Plus draw a card off the bestiary. Might just go to Servant and draw a card. That's fine too. See if he remembers that energy trigger. He does. Back up to 3 energy. Kind of wants to abrade that, and he will. So Siphoner down, slow down the card drawing, pass the turn back. But Kevin knows that the Scarab God is coming. Once again, hub the draw. Here comes Servant. All right, Kevin going to go down to 3.
Yeah, Kevin needs his mana there. Great attack there from Jessup. If there's a trade, that's fine. Jones has less resources to work with, and he really needs to play 2 spells a turn. I mean, if he takes the hit, that's great too.
Hub will bring Jessup and energy is up to 5. Scarab God making a return appearance. Pass that turn back. Over to Kevin Jones will go. Can he take care of the Scarab God again? bestiary will allow him to scry. And it actually looks like Kazu Negri just won his match straight up, 2-0. So this is the one that matters. Apologies for the misinformation there. I thought that Andrew Jessup tied it up, but that is not the case. So it all comes down to this. One thing to note, too, as we take a look at the clock here. 13 minutes about. They're in game 2.
Yeah.
These standard matches, especially these mid-range mirrors and energy, they could take a while.
They could. I suspect this one will not, but yes.
But they can.
But they can,
yes.
I just don't know how Jones cobbles together enough resources to fight over the Scarab God and preserve his life total.
And pressure his opponent.
And pressure his opponent.
Yeah.
While he's missing land drops. It's asking a lot. But it looks like he will gamely battle on.
Well, here's Chandra. The lack of red mana here, a huge problem for Kevin.
Right, yeah, Glorybringer in hand that he's been off of for a little bit, and having to tap the Servant here is a big cost.
Oh, he's going to have to do it. Okay, so he's going to plus Chandra, use Harness Lightning, out of energy. Follow-up, I think, is a Cub. All right. And draw a card with the bestiary.
Not a shabby turn.
Not a bad turn at all. Used all the mana, did all the things. Now we're going to go back over to Jessup, who's going to cycle a Fetid Pools. New card coming. The Scarab God going to come back. Draw a card. Drew another copy of the Scarab God. Now Andrew Jessup is the one that built Dan's standard deck here this weekend. He's got a real nose for good cards.
Yes, he's found several of them.
Smart guy is Andrew Jessup.
He's identified several powerful cards.
Here's Jadelight Ranger. Forest, that's Explorer number 1. Siphoner, that's Explorer number 2. Gonna consult Baby Bro. Where do we want to put this thing? I don't know if he really needs that, yeah. 3-2 Jadelight Ranger, land for the turn. Scarab God for the turn. Most likely. I think Servant's a good attack. Trade with the Cub, yep. And yeah, we cast it. Thing doesn't die, we cast it. Yeah, I'm probably a little worried about something like Confiscation Coup, I guess, but
yeah, I mean, it would have to be Confiscation Coup plus energy, right?
Yeah, that's true too. We're scrying with the bestiary.
Not to say that's the most impossible thing or whatever, but he's not just drawing the Confiscation Coup in this spot.
And that's a card that gets worse too.
Yeah.
Without Rogue Refiner and Attune,
yep.
You don't just have a ton of energy laying around a Confiscation Coup anything. It's a much more honest card now.
Have finished, and one team is up 2-0. The third match does not need to conclude, although you are free to play it out. We do ask that you fill out your match results slip and turn it into a judge. Once again, team open, time in round 1 is up.
Time has been called in our team open in the Swiss round, though obviously these players in the feature match area got a little extra time to work with as they are teaming up.
And you can also see the Toon Ban in play here. He's actually color screwed.
Yes.
He doesn't have double red. I mean, he's doing it through the Chandra, but that's a costly way to do it here.
Yep, it's a big deal. Kevin will pay 6 for the Glorybringer.
Yeah, that allows him to cast Glorybringer and draw off the bestiary. But he had to use an energy and tap the Servant last turn. This is all small stuff, but the games and how good the decks are often come down to really small things.
And before it was all free. You had great mana.
Right,
with
it was
the
all
Toon.
free.
Yeah, you had hubs with a boatload of energy. It was all free stuff. Glorybringer going to exert. The follow up. Get that thing out of here.
This is a grueling way to do it.
It's not easy. He's already played a land for the turn, so now we're going to pass back over to Jessup. Jessup. He's going to play Vraska. Yeah, Vraska's can attempt to kill your blocker, attack you for 3, which is exactly what he's conveniently at. That means that Danny Jessup, Andrew Jessup, and Bradley Carpenter are going to win this match here over Rudy Briksza, Kazu Negri, and Kevin Jones. 2 matches to 1.